Hey boys and girls, this is Miss Landhart and I'm here to tell you about explaining your work in math. So a lot of times you're asked to show how you know and explain how you know in words, and that's not something that we've ever really spent a lot of time teaching you on, so that's something that we want to get better at now. So whenever you have a problem that says explain what you did or explain how you know in math, you're going to follow a protocol called show and tell. So we have such clear steps for when we're writing. We always write with tied when we're doing a big essay, or with WW what to, how to if we're writing a narrative story. And when we're creating small response, we always follow TID. And I found that you guys do so well with that. So I wanted to break down math explanations in a similar way and give you a mnemonic device that you could use and remember so that whenever you're asked to explain your work in math, you can follow it. And that is called show and tell. So the obvious part would be show your work. So you got to make sure that if you're saying this fraction is similar to this fraction, you have some sort of model or visual that proves that. Okay. You know that I never allow you to actually just write down an answer. I want to see all your work. So as long as you're showing your work and showing everything you did, that's the first step. Now, the second step, and this is the part I'm going to teach you today, is tell. And this is our acronym. So instead of using tied or TID, it is tell. The T in tell stands for tell what the answer is in sentence form, including the necessary labels. So when you were younger, your teacher would say, 5 apples plus 1 apple is how many apples? And you had to write 6. But then a lot of times you had to write a number sentence. The answer of 5 plus 1 is 6. This is something that you guys are used to already. The T. It is just a quick one sentence. This is the answer. You might use sentence stems such as my solution is, or the correct answer is, the product is, the difference is. So here are some sentence stems that you could use. But again, this is something that you already know and should be really great at. The E in tell stands for explain what operation or strategy you used and why. So if there was a word problem that said Bobby and Susie went to the market, they bought 5 red apples plus 1 yellow apple, how many apples did they buy? If you know that that key language of and means you need to add something, if the word and tells you addition, you would go ahead and explain it here. So if it said there were 5 groups of kids and there were 6 groups in each, 6 kids in each group, you would know, oh, each, that always tells me multiplication. And you've gotten really good at doing that in your head, but this is the step where you're explaining, Miss Landhart, this is why I chose to multiply. Or whoever's correcting your test, if you're doing a test, or when you go to middle school and you're doing it out, this is the step where you're explaining why you did something. So some sentence stems that you might use are I solved the problem by, because, or the strategy I used was, or I chose to multiply because. Okay. If you're used to cubes, you know you'd box the words. So boxing, you might say, I boxed the word and, so I knew to add. The next step is the L. The L stands for list the steps you followed to solve the problem using any key vocabulary. So first, next, then. First, I found a common denominator. Then, once my fractions had common denominators, I knew I could add them together. So I added 5/4 plus 1/4. I had to do this because I know you can never add 2 fractions with unlike denominators. The listing the steps is simply looking at your work and just explaining what you did each step of the way. And then last but not least, and I want you to note that there's a little star next to this. This is because if you do these 3 things, that is our expectation. In order to get a 3, which is where you should be at the end of the year for standards-based grading, if you do a T, E, and L in your math explanation, you're good to go. But if you're the kind of student that wants to go above and beyond, which you should shoot for, you can add this last L. And this last L with a little star next to it stands for legitimize and prove your answer is correct. So to legitimize is to prove that what you did is correct. So the different ways you could prove your math answer is correct, you could backwards solve it. So if you know that 5 times 4 is 20, and that was a problem you were solving, you could divide to make sure that 20 divided by 5 is 4. You could check your work. If you added the 3 apples or the 3 amounts of apples and you found an answer, you could go ahead and subtract it to make sure your answer is correct. You could also use a different strategy. So say you drew a picture in the first one and you got the answer as 12/4, and then the second one you just solved it on your own. If you got 12/4 for both, clearly you're correct. You might use a sentence stem like, I know my answer is reasonable because I can check my answer by, or I can prove my answer is correct. Another strategy I could use would be, again, these stems are here for your support, but you can write it however you like as long as you are following these steps T, E, L, and L. Again, I want to repeat to you that to get a strong command, a standards-based grading score of 3, you need to follow T.E.L.L. However, if you do all 4 parts, the T, E, L, and L, that's going above and beyond. That's distinguished command. That's a 4. So I want to show you some awesome examples from students in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this. So here's an example. It says, use your equation from part B to find S, the area and square feet of the floor. Show or explain how you got your answer. If ever it says show or explain how you got your answer, that tells you, oh, I have to use show and tell. So this student wrote, the area of the floor is 13.5 square feet. There's their T. They told their answer. Okay, let's look for their E. Let's see if they explain their strategy. I know the width of the floor is 3 feet and length is 4.5 feet. I knew to multiply as I was trying to find out area, length times width. They just did their E. They explained why they knew to multiply. And then here's their L right here, listing their steps. I did 3 times 4.5 and got an answer of 13.5. So the area of the floor is 13.5 square feet. They listed their steps. They said what they did. And last but not least, the L right here, they're proving their answer is correct. I know my answer is correct because if I added 4.5 plus 4.5 plus 4.5 3 times, the same thing as 4.5 times 3, I also got 13.5 square feet. So they proved or legitimized their answer. This is an example of a 4-point response. Here's another example. Sophia bought a rug. The rug covers 2/3 of the floor. What is the area in square feet of the rug? Show or explain how you got your answer. Enter your answer. Oh, I know I need to explain. So here's the explanation. The area of the rug is 9 square feet. There's their answer. They told their answer. I know that the floor has 9 rows and 2/3 is equal to 6/9. I knew to multiply as I was trying to find area. There's their E. They explained why they're multiplying. Now they're going to go ahead and list their steps. That's what this L stands for. I took 6 rows of the floor as a numerator, 6/9, because it would tell how many rows are needed. The rug was 3 feet in width and length. When I multiplied them together, I got an answer of 9 feet. So the area of the rug is 9 square feet. They just listed all the steps they followed. And last but not least, they're going to legitimize or prove their answer. I can prove my answer is correct because I split the visual into 3 equal pieces and shaded 2 of them. And when I counted each square, it also equaled 9, which is my answer. That, again, is an exemplar response. It earns a standard-based grading score of 4. So this is what you should be shooting for. Because if you ever heard that quote, shoot for the moon, even if you fall, you'll land amongst the stars. Okay? We should always shoot for the 4. Even if you can't figure out how to prove your answer, try your very best. Our goal is for you to earn a 3. These responses here are actually from students who took the MCAS before and scored a really high score. So looking at exemplar math explanations, just like we do in writing, looking at exemplar writing, helps us to figure out how we can get better and how we can improve. So last but not least, I just want to show you an exact question on RICAS that would let you know you need to explain. So automatically, just visually, if you look at the box right here, you know you need to explain. Okay, there's a spot to type. Also, it says, what is the distance? Show or explain how you got your answer. If it says show or explain how you got your answer, you know to use show and tell. As you continue to scroll through, here's another one. How many more meters did Ben walk than Alice? Show or explain. So, show and tell.